bring them up. Thank you. Oh, and they asked that I do a dance. Okay. All right.
Good morning. I am Jeremy. This is Chris, and we are the co-founders of Trobo, the storytelling robot, a Orlando startup. We actually started at Startup Weekend in 2013. It's the last time we got paid. It was 2013.
All downhill from there.
That's right. So we're kind of an interesting company because we've gone through a lot of different milestones. We've got a lot of different experiences that we're happy to answer questions about, the most recent, which of course is Shark Tank. But we've had kind of an interesting run of different funding sources, different growth patterns. We're a manufacturing company. We've got a little bit of everything, as well as a technology company. To tell you a little bit about our backgrounds, Chris can tell you his.
I'm an electrical engineer with an MBA. I went to Auburn University and USF.
I'm a control systems engineer, undergrad, University of Pennsylvania, MBA at University of Minnesota. I worked in the theme park engineering business before this. I worked for a company, Chris and I met there about almost 20 years ago, where we manufacture all the audio and video equipment that theme parks use. So we travel around the world. It's almost 20 years.
I want to say that was 15 years ago. We're not that old. I also have a background in gaming development. Used to work for Electronic Arts.
And one of the things that kind of started this is these bullet points here. Chris has a 4-year-old son and another one on the way. And I have a 4-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter. And we were watching our own kids, and this is kind of a common theme apparently in children's and toy product companies. We were looking at what our kids were playing with and realized there was a better way to do it. In our case, we were looking at the toys that our kids were playing with. For me, the straw that broke the camel's back was my kids were being watched by my aunt, who's an elementary school teacher, and they were playing on an iPad, and my daughter was making virtual cake pops. At the same time, she was fascinated by all the science and engineering she saw in the world around her. She didn't know it was science, she didn't know it was engineering, but she was asking all these questions about what is lightning, how does a plane work, and those kinds of things. And I'm watching her make virtual cake pops, and the two just didn't add up.
And my son is a real Hot Wheels fan, and it pains me to see him making Hot Wheels together as opposed to learning something with every second he has.
So as parents, we see this. We also have overriding guilt as parents, as any parent does, in that we can't be with our kids every second of the day. They're going to play, they're going to experience toys, they're going to have a lot of screen time, and we wanted something better for our kids, and that really was what started us on this path and established our problem.
So we joined forces at Startup Weekend and created the essence of what is Trobo that you see today. So Trobo basically is this robot here. It's a connected companion toy. There's a Bluetooth module in the back that connects to iPads. We have a reasonably advanced application these days that reads stories about science and math to kids age 2 to 5. Our promotion is STEM content, non-violent content. If you download the application, your child actually gets into the application by their name and an avatar that they build, and the content is tailored to their age. We hope to continue adding more and more stories and more companion apps.
So these are kind of the milestones that we were talking about before. We started Startup Weekend, and then we were also the second class of Starter Studio. We did a Kickstarter campaign in September to October of 2014 where we raised $61,000. There's been a lot of talk around some of the Kickstarter projects out there that either deliver really late or some of them even never deliver. We actually delivered early. We're one of the few campaigns that managed to do that. Right around the same time, we got a grant from the National Science Foundation that helped to fund development of the stories and the application. As I mentioned, we delivered early. We committed to November of 2015. We delivered in October. And then in January, we had a good holiday season. In January, we became a partner with Amazon. So we are an Amazon exclusive product. We deliver through there.
And I'll say one other thing. They've been very supportive and helpful. The grant we used, we actually partnered with the Florida Interactive Entertainment Academy, which is an outshoot of UCF, and EA Sports. And we hired a lot of local talent there to make the content that you see in the application today. And then we got on Shark Tank. Yay! So that was a lot of fun. We actually shot last June or June, and they kept telling us with every step of the way You're not going to get on, so don't plan for it. And then if you do get on, we'll let you know in 2 weeks before the show airs. So we had this really huge secret that we kept. We made some basic business plans around it, but we also didn't make any really enormous business plans because we couldn't take that kind of risk. So then we had a plan in place. 3 weeks before the show aired, we actually were told, and then we ran like idiots getting everything else ready before the show aired.
So one of the complications with that, as Chris mentioned, is every step along the way they tell you can't tell anybody, and then they tell you you're going to get this 2-week notice. So in September, when they had the season premiere, Chris was in a promo for it. He has a fairly unique face, highlights in his hair, all that stuff, and we dashing chin, all that, and so all of a sudden we're working at a canvas, and all of a sudden all these people come to go, was that you in a Shark Tank commercial? And we go to the producer, we go, what are we supposed to tell people? They go, you can tell them anything you want. You can't tell them it was you. So we came up with a line, and when somebody would say, are you guys going to be on Shark Tank? My line was, I can neither confirm nor deny what you may or may not have seen. And that did nothing. So that was what we had to do.
And we'd also say, but we hear those people who do go on the show are under really large liability lawsuits if they talk. So don't ask any more questions.
So our episode aired last Friday, April 8th. And we did a watch party at Canvas, which was really cool. And maybe we'll leave that to the Q&A since there's a lot of questions about it probably. But we do want to talk a little bit about what our future looks like. So we are looking for investment. The future of Trobo really is building this out as a platform for early childhood science education. We know there must be people out there like us who feel passionate about science education and want better alternatives for their kids and kids all around the world. STEM is a universal concept, and we do need more scientists, engineers, and designers out there. So we want to build Trobo as an iconic character for early childhood science education. That means more stories. We get a lot of questions about the age range, 2 to 5. We want to age up as well, so offer this product, Trobo the Storytelling Robot, for our younger audience, 2 to 5, and then create a series of books and content for older kids. And then we also want to create cartoons and museum exhibits and science kits, and really, when you see Trobo, think about early childhood science education.
That's fair. So think of it more as a brand and not just the toy you see today.
I think with that, we'll open up to questions.
Okay, questions?
I didn't really want to go first, but I do have a question. A long time ago, Texas Instruments was really, really big in sort of childhood learning tools like Speak and Spell and things of that sort. Are there companies like that provide a natural distribution network for what it is that you have been able to accomplish? And that kind of leads to the second question. Where do you really want to go with this?
There are companies that do that. Over the past 2.5 years, we've had occasion to speak with Fisher-Price. Scholastic often comes up as another potential partner. So one of the potential exits, quote-unquote exits, is partnering with one of those companies because clearly they have the ability to put Trobo on the mainstream that a small startup will struggle doing. So there are those partners. Some of them are more education-related and less retail-related. And we chose at the end of last year to no longer pursue the education route because it's a really long sales cycle. It takes a lot of sales force that we don't have. We are still interested in talking with partners in the retail space.
Morning, guys. Great to see you again.
Hi.
Are you a toy company or are you a game company?
We're a content company, is what we want to be. Now, right now, our premier product is a toy, and it's actually a connected toy, which is a growing space. I think it was quoted as $2.5 billion in last year's sales. Not Trobo, but the connected toy space. Too bad, Trobo. But we're a content company because what we want to do is continue to grow past this. We have a coloring book now, and we have these other books that have been in development since January to reach out to our next generation of children, which is 6 to 9 in the age range. And we want to grow past the connected toy you see into a suite of products, ideally TV shows and you name it, for the Trobos, which if you think of Trobos as the Smurfs for STEM education or the Care Bears for STEM education, you'll get a sense of what this can really turn into.
So are you looking to create your own content, or are you open to partnering with other content providers?
It's an interesting question. So, and if you saw the episode, we designed the product from the beginning to be a platform. Kind of give us some flexibility also. The idea was not just to create a Trobos as a character and expand it there, but also allow the platform, because we've invested a lot of money into that. Our platform is a story-based platform with interactive elements in it. We designed it from the beginning to require minimal engineering in order to be for each story, because we're engineers and we're expensive. So we were looking for technical artists, though extremely talented, or unfortunately not as expensive as engineers. So what we did from the beginning was create a platform that would be able to use other people's IP. Trobo happens to be the first product to ride on that, so the goal is to do that. But also, as we look on it, as we reflect back, licensing is a really appealing opportunity. I think what I like to say is, if you had told us 2.5 years ago, so people would say to us, you should really look at licensing. It's an easier path for you. We're like, why would we take $1 per product when we can make $20 per product? And then 2.5 years down the road, you're like, I want to kick that guy in the head. I mean, that was to build a toy and bring it to market is a very expensive proposition, and so we're trying to create a licensable property, but we're also trying to create a property that has a unifying theme and unifying messaging. When we first started the idea of talking about schools, when we were looking at that path, which is what our grant was for, they mentioned that people were resistant to character-driven properties in schools for educational reasons. And if you think about it, it's because Mickey Mouse is a great character. He also has a theme park and Happy Meals and all kinds of things, and a lot of baggage that may not necessarily make him the best messenger for educational content. Trobos have no baggage. If McDonald's wants to make a Happy Meal, Chris is probably going to do it. But our goal is really education. That's where our passion is. And Chris mentioned that on the show, is that education is really our passion. So that's what these characters stand for. Unless McDonald's is out there and wants to make a Trobo Happy Meal.
Hi, my name's Jessica. I actually am a digital content creator, and I really connect to your product, and your presentation is great. Have you guys thought, since you say that your next, what you want is to be a content company, have you guys plugged into the local storytelling community? There's a really rich literary and storytelling, writing, all kinds of content creators right here in Orlando that I think would be a perfect fit to help you guys do exactly what you want to.
We are. With FIA particularly, at least on the implementation of the production side, for sure, on content. We also have a writing contest where any writer from across the country can submit ideas, and then they get taken through the process to convert their idea into a script. And we're also part of the SCWBI. Is that what it is?
Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators.
Yeah, so that's probably our biggest avenue of people coming in to give us content.
I would suggest checking out Orlando Storytelling Club. It's I just think that they would be so excited about
Okay.
the product. And also, Writers of Central Florida or thereabouts.
I think we've reached out to them.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll check out
We
the
have a
Orlando
meeting
Storytelling.
tonight if you want to swing by.
Okay.
But yeah, there's so many great. There's a couple people that I can connect you with that I think would be perfect. My other question is, so that was just me being excited about your product, but
Sure.
My question is, have you guys, yes, you want to do STEM, but have you thought about literacy? Like how literacy and how your product can help kids in that next age range learn and grow their reading ability?
Yeah, that's come up a lot, actually. We haven't done it initially because what we've learned in the past 2.5 years is staying focused on one thing and doing that will make us grow faster. And then once we have the credibility in that space, then we can expand. But that came up a lot when we were speaking with educators. And during the Phase 1 grant that we got, a lot of educators wanted us to add the ability to teach literacy with the product. So hopefully that's a part of our future growth.
Question here?
For a little more than 3 years, I've been ambassador to a school here in Orlando that treats and works with children with cerebral palsy. This is everything from babies that they've recently taken on to adults, but primarily they're small children. And they're always looking for something that the child can connect to that may stimulate his thought process, his coordination, or what have you. Now, they know what works best with different children, and I'm just wondering if this is a product that, in coordination with them, would possibly be usable in the school.
We've gotten that question a lot, actually specifically with cerebral palsy. It's one of the benefits of having, instead of having a 2D app, having a three-dimensional product with a toy that's tangible that the child can hold. The children do really forge an emotional connection with the toy, and we get tons of pictures from people with the kids. The parents send pictures of the kids sleeping with the Trobo and being with the Trobo and learning with the Trobo, and it's really great. As we said, the school market's a little bit different from us, just because there are different requirements in terms of core requirements. That's one of the things we were trying to do with our SBIR grant. But our goal is really to create this unified content that kind of grows with the children in terms of story topics and complexity. And whether a child has CP or anything else, I think it's a great opportunity for the children to learn and have a companion along the way. Thank you.
Good morning, guys. I have a couple thoughts. One, have you guys been talking to the school systems with like the PTAs would be probably the first contact I would think about with elementary schools. That would be the first idea, because me and Chris have the state of Florida president on speed dial, and we're meeting with her shortly, and I would love, you guys could join us if you like. That'd be the first thing, because I think this would be great for them. The second thing, have you ever thought about reaching out to like the restaurant distributions, like through my pipeline, where, you know, I see families going to Applebee's or something, and they have a little computer screen now in the game where you can actually, even at Olive Garden, you can swipe and go out, where this could plug into those iPads. Now, there's a lot of restaurants are doing that, where you can check out. Have you guys thought about even having Darden restaurants buying these by the thousands? Have you even looked into that?
We definitely worked a lot with the educational system during our Phase 1 grant research. And what we learned was it takes a significant amount of money to fund sales and development. As soon as you start in earnest talking about education, everyone asks, okay, what teachers have you used to vet your content? What school systems have you used to vet your content? And where are the 100 stories that you have available when we buy your product? So that is a huge content discussion, and it has to be fully vetted. And in fact, we applied for a Phase 2 grant to fund that. Last year, we didn't get it. And that was to the tune of $750,000. And in all honesty, that was a small drop in the bucket to what we really would have needed to get it out there. So that's a very significant financial step. And we early on were going to do that. We got a lot of feedback, get into schools. But we realized it's going to take a large investment to get there. We haven't thought about getting the app onto something like Darden's or the other screens like an Applebee's and what have you. That's an interesting idea.
If you get one of those contracts, you can get millions of dollars in funding ASAP immediately. I can't doubt it. But we can sit and do lunch or something. I
Okay.
definitely would venture into that a little bit.
Thank you.
Lunch with me and Chris, like I said again.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a question here and then two more on this side too, so you guys.
Yeah, great job, guys. Can you, since there are probably quite a few entrepreneurs that are interested in Shark Tank, can you quantify what Shark Tank did for you? Have you seen an increase?
So yeah, we're still working through the sales numbers to try and figure out the impact.
It just happened Friday night.
Oh, you need the mic. Yeah, otherwise it doesn't get picked up on the.
It just happened Friday night.
Yeah, so we're still working through that, through the Amazon backlog and all that. I will say kind of the one lesson that we reflected on the most is the edit can be your friend or your foe. In our case, as we were getting ready for this whole thing, and we had already taped and everything and couldn't tell anybody except for ourselves, and had a lot of great conversations with ourselves.
We're very engaged.
Yeah. I think our biggest concern was, please don't make us look like fools. And when we saw the show, we were watching with all those people, and I think there was some reluctance on the part of us, like, do we really want to sit in a room with a lot of people when we could look really bad? But we reflected on what happened during the taping, and the taping was 45 minutes long. It gets edited down to 8 minutes. One thing about the show that's interesting is that they really push this idea that it's a VC pitch, and there just happen to be TV cameras there. So if you're there 10 minutes, you're there 10 minutes. If you're there 3 hours, you're there 3 hours. They're not going to cut you off, which it brings an interesting moment when they bring 10 entrepreneurs to film, and the first 3 pitches are 3 hours, and they've run out of time because they have to shut down for the day, and the rest of the people go home. So we were really concerned about looking foolish. What never really occurred to us was, I wonder how our product's going to be portrayed on the show. You know, we did a demo with Damon, it was really cute. The feedback we've gotten since then was, you guys did great, you know, you look great, that was my suit, and but the problem was, if I didn't know what Trobo was before the show, I didn't really know what it was after. And so that kind of fell to the edit. And so one of the things we're actually going to do today is kind of answer those questions about what is Trobo, what you didn't see on the show, to make sure we get that. We got a nice big email list of people that came to our website and subscribed so we can communicate with them. So part of it is telling the rest of the story. You didn't know our background. You don't know what the product is doing. I don't even know if people knew that we were parents. I don't even know if that came through on the show. So a lot of the stuff that Chris and I take for granted kind of fell by the wayside to the edit. So if you ever are fortunate enough to get on the show, I think the one thing I was thinking about this today in terms of advice I would give people, your pitch that you give, your 1-minute pitch, is not going to be cut. So make sure you tell the story you want to tell in that 1 minute, because otherwise you're kind of completely open to the whims of the editor.
Question here?
So real quick, I mean, it sounds like the biggest challenge is capital, but if you were to do a raise, where are you spending the money?
If we were to do a raise, like a funding raise, the big things that we want to do next with Trobo are getting onto Android and adding more story content. The big question that we always get early on, it's not so much anymore, it was, hey, where are more stories? Where are more stories? Content development is extremely expensive, considering that it's very marginalized on iTunes. Like, all of you probably expect to pay $1 for a story, or it should be free because it's content. It's cheap, right? So it's not. It's a lot of money. And so content is always one of the things that is expensive to develop. Android's the other. And we'd also take this to the next generation of hardware. One of the pieces of feedback we get is, okay, I want to do more with the toy. I want to press the buttons on the belly here. People think those are buttons. I want to do more with the toy outside the app. And so we have plans for Trobo 1.5, Trobo 2.0 that add more savvy to the doll. All of those take money. Yeah.
Question here?
This might sound like a silly question, but hopefully it has some seriousness to it.
Oh, there are. You're going to ask one. It's okay. Just kidding.
How do you, let's just say Trobo takes off. How do you prevent becoming the next Cabbage Patch or the next Beanie Baby, where it becomes a fad and then all of a sudden nobody wants it anymore? How do you prevent that?
Sell it quickly. First up, we certainly hope we become the next Cabbage Patch. We'll take that. Yeah. Because that's a big thing, right? Because the brand becomes a household name at that point. And with Shark Tank, we're a little bit more of a household name. But it clearly takes more than just one episode on TV to do that. We certainly want to become that household name. But I believe, and you can talk to this too, the big thing is producing other things besides what you see now. Introducing people to the concept that there are other Trobo characters, that there are other ways that Trobos can contribute to children's learning, and ideally landing some sort of film or TV deal to tell those stories. And certainly books are something we can fund ourselves. Would help to make the brand stronger than just the product.
And one other thing along those lines is why I keep coming back to that idea of STEM. STEM is a big fad right now. Everybody's like, oh, we got to STEM this, STEM that. It's not for us. I mean, we've been engineers our entire lives. It's important to us. The country and the world need more engineers. And that's really the thing it ultimately comes down to is, even if the toy itself is a fad, we wonder about this sometimes too, the technology is constantly evolving. But the idea that when it comes back down to it, our core message is how do we get kids excited about the science and engineering that they find every day. There's so many different ways to do that. And when you look at the different people out there, I mean, it's interesting if you look at Bill Nye. Bill Nye was actually kind of in between our generation with now and our kids. But if you look at his longevity, and he's actually, it's interesting because all his discussions on climate change and things like that, he's actually kind of stayed with the kids that he grew up with. So now those people are adults, and he's focused less on the children and more on those adults as they've grown up. And there's this vacuum. And right now there's kind of individual properties that fill in that vacuum. None of them particularly well, and I would say none of them without that commercial baggage. It's not to say I would love to have my kid have a Trobo lunchbox. I think that'd be awesome. But fundamentally, when they see Trobo, we want them to think science. We want them to think engineering. And that's ultimately what gives our brand power. It gives it longevity because Chris says it all the time. He wants something that outlasts us. I mean, it would be great if our grandkids are still playing with Trobo because Trobos are about science and engineering. Those are topics that don't go away.
One last question. In terms of the types of stories, is Trobo teaching kids how to code, or is Trobo like explaining, like a plane works like this, or a Trobo cop is like, this is how you debug, this line of code? I'm just curious.
Actually, the conversation around Trobo teaching children how to code comes up a lot. In fact, one of our key partners I was speaking with yesterday is still encouraging us to try to get Trobo in the coding world because it's very popular also. We've refrained from getting into that space. It's very crowded. There are lots of robots that teach children how to code. Anytime we go to ISTE or other types of or FETSI conventions, there are like 100 robots that teach kids how to code, and a bunch of different ways to do it. So it's very crowded. It's hard to stand alone there. It would be something for early education, not in preschool, but like elementary school. And we may, in fact, do some of that. We have one Scratch example that I wrote for it teaches a child how to build a program with Trobo going around a maze. And we'll be pushing that out with a program called Itch here in the next couple of months. But that's not going to be a big focus for us because we want to stand alone as the STEM storytelling robot.
So the stories are about things that kids find everywhere. Right now our stories are what is lightning, how does a car work, which is really cool because we actually had a kid teaching their parents how their car works from watching the story, which is really neat. She was 5. And then what is lightning, we've got a story, Trobo goes to Mars and gets stuck on there. That's our newest story. It's really cool. Also a different artistic style. That's one of the things we're kind of playing around with also is different ways to display the characters. And then what else? How do I count money? It's a math story, so that's kind of a fun one.
So what can we as a community do for you right now?
In order for us to grow, we need to inject capital into the company. So certainly Jeremy and I have invested. We were fortunate enough to get the Kickstart. We were fortunate enough to get the grant. And we were fortunate enough to get the brand exposure on national television twice, actually, with Exploration Station and with Shark Tank. But in order to get from our niche STEM product with early adoption to mass market adoption, we need investors. So we have a pitch deck, we have a business plan, and if you or a friend of yours knows anything about and wants to invest in something like Trobo, give us a call.
All right. Well, let's make sure we give them a round of applause.
So much.